Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. My name is Raymond, and in this video I'm taking a look at Rotodo by Dieter Beck, who designed and published this game. And he was at Spiel 24, where he was demoing and selling this game for the first time. And it was a very interesting game. I played a game with him, and then he donated a copy for me to review on my channel. But before I start explaining how to play the game and share my thoughts on it, I'd like to ask you to please hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see more reviews and unboxings on my channel, and please also check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below. Patrons of my channel get early access to all of my videos, access to exclusive content, your name in the credits, and you also save up for the exclusive Board Game Heaven enamel pin. Alright, let's start explaining how it plays. To set up a game of Rotodo, take the board, and every player has their own pickup tower right here and one marker in their color. There's a gray and a white one, and you just fill the board like this with the gray and the white base nodes, and every color has one node with a blue side, and that is your main node. The game comes with one spare white and gray base node, and you can use those to determine randomly who gets to start, because the gray player always starts, so you just keep those behind your back and let the other player pick a hand, and then you reveal, and that player gets to start the game if they pick gray, or not if they pick white. If you want to play a shorter game, then you can remove all the nodes on the two side columns for a more action-oriented game. Or you can remove the first two starting rows for a shorter, more strategic game. Or you can remove all the nodes surrounding the board for a much shorter game. So simply pick one of the setups depending on how long you want to play. Decide who gets to choose first, and that's the whole setup. Let's explain the rules. In Rotodo, players take turns switching around these nodes on the board until two victory conditions are met, which I will explain in a little bit. To move the pieces on the board, both players will have one of these magnetic lifters, which have these four magnets on the corners that are used to pick up your nodes and place them back in a different orientation. And every time you rotate nodes on the board, you have to change the layout. So rotating four nodes of the same color is not allowed, because that doesn't change anything. So for example, I'm going to place my lifter on these four nodes here, and as soon as you lock onto the nodes with the magnets, you cannot change your position anymore. And make sure that this arrow is always pointing towards the opponent, so you know the starting position of your lifter. And then you rotate these nodes, so you can rotate them 90 degrees in either direction or 180 degrees, but obviously you can't do a 360 because that would end your move in the same place that you started and you haven't changed anything. So let's say, for example, I want to do this. Then I pick up my marker, I drop it into the lifter like so, and then I use my fingers and my thumb to disconnect the magnets from the nodes, and I pick up my lifter, and that was my move. The marker is now here to indicate that the other player cannot do the same move, so they can't put their lifter on these four nodes, because it's not allowed to undo the move of the previous player. So then the other player can make a move, so they may want to do, let's say, these four, and they just want to turn them all the way around. They place their marker, then they disconnect, lift their lifter, and that's their turn. Now on my next turn, I can take back my marker, because I can now once again do this if I wanted to, but I can't do these four. So let's say I want to move these four pieces in a 180 degree turn. I place my marker again and lift my lifter back. It's my opponent's turn, and maybe they want to do this right here. They take their piece, put that in here, and that's their turn. Now, if at any time I manage to form a full row in my opponent's half of the board, I can upgrade one of the nodes in that row to an up node, and that is the other side of that node, which has the opposite color in the middle. So let's say I saw the opportunity right here, and I pick up these nodes and I turn them around like this. I put my marker in here and I lift it. That will allow me to now flip over one of these. So maybe I want to flip over this one and upgrade it to an up node. But in doing so, I've also created a horizontal row for my opponent in my side of the board, so they also get to upgrade one of their nodes. So maybe they want to upgrade this one. Obviously, that is something you will want to avoid doing, but for the example here, that is what happens. So you can potentially give your opponent an up node as well, which of course they get to choose. There is one limitation to creating an up node, and that is when you complete your line either vertically or horizontally, you are not allowed to have either an up node or a main node of your color in the lifter. So what does an up node do? It's basically a stronger node than your base nodes. And whenever you want to rotate a group of 4 nodes, you have to make sure that your level is equal. Now, of course, all base nodes are of the same level, but an up node is basically a level up. So they are stronger than the base nodes. So in other words, if I wanted to move these 4 nodes with my lifter, I wouldn't be able to do that because my base nodes are of a lower level than my opponent's up node. They, of course, can move these same 4 because these pieces are theirs. And I can also just move these 4 around because my up node is the same level as their up node. And it's not about numbers, so even should the opponent have multiple up nodes, I can still rotate these 4 because I simply have one that's equal to their level. So that also means, should this at any point be the case, that I could rotate this group of 4 even though I only have 1 and they have 3. It's not about numbers, it's about the equal levels. So having an up node basically means that you're making it harder for the opponent to move your pieces around. You can also make an up node by creating a vertical column of your pieces. If you manage to make a full column in your color, you can pick one of the nodes in that column, flip it over and create another up node. So how do you win the game? There are 2 conditions you need to meet in order to win the game. And the first condition is that you want to surround the opponent's main node with 3 of your nodes. And of course, I'm just placing them there now, but you have to achieve that by continuing to rotate, groups of 4 until you reach this situation. You need to surround the opponent's main node on all sides, but only orthogonally, not diagonally. And of course, if they're still in their starting position, then you only need to do it on 3 sides. And should they be in the corner, then of course you only need to surround them on 2 sides. But if they moved their node, or maybe if you moved their main node somehow, then of course it gets a lot more difficult because then you need to surround them on 4 sides. And the second rule, the second condition to win the game is to make a connected path in your color between the 2 main nodes. So, for example, if I managed to do this on a turn and I had already surrounded my opponent's main node, then I would now have a path connected to my main node, and that means at that point I win the game. And it doesn't matter in which order you do it. You can make a connection first and then, get a, if this was the case, I would have made a connection and then I can rotate, put my marker in there and surround it on the final spot there and win the game that way. Or surround it first and then finish my connection. Or surround it first and then finish the connecting path. Now keep in mind that the main nodes are basically also up nodes, just with the blue color to indicate that that is indeed their main node. And so that means that I can only turn or move this main node by having another up node next to it. So in this case, I would be able to move these and turn that around if I wanted to. Otherwise, with just base nodes, I wouldn't be able to move my opponent's main node. Now, as soon as I meet one of the two winning condition, I get a benefit. So if I manage to isolate, let's just say with regular nodes in this example, my opponent's main node, so for example, like this, and of course, without having a connection yet, now my opponent's main node is surrounded, but I haven't won yet, then it is no longer connected to its own color, and that means that I can turn it with even just base nodes. On the other hand, if I manage to make the connection first and not have surrounded my opponent's main node with my nodes yet, then the base node that connects to my opponent's main node receives a power boost. So that means this one connects to mine, or this one even. That means that those nodes are basically strengthened and they can still turn the main node from my opponent. So if this was now my turn, I could easily win by rotating these four and moving this one here, and then isolate the enemy's main node and have a connection to my main node. That would be meeting the two win conditions, and I would have won. So in this case, it would be wise, if it was my opponent's turn, to move their main node away from my node. So maybe they wanted to do this, since they have the higher level here, and you can always decide how you want to turn it. So maybe I want to do this, or maybe I just want to do this and make it even harder for them to connect there. So let's do that, and then lift this, and there you go. And those are all the rules for playing Rotodo. Let's go to my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on Rotodo by Dieter Beck. Well, let's start with the components. First of all, the board is pretty good. It's, of course, it's plastic, and it has all these spots for all these octagonal pieces, and they fit in nicely. They just fall in, and if you flip them over, they just stay in place really nicely. The pieces themselves are pretty nice. You can hear a little magnet jiggling inside there. And so one side is just a plain color, and the other side has the opposite color in the middle, which sometimes makes it a bit difficult to remember which piece is mine. But you look at the outer edge, of course. So this is the gray up node, and this is the white up node. So you do have to pay a little bit of attention to that. I kind of wish that he used a different color for the insert, maybe just made it black or something, I don't know, or just a different color for both, so that you literally just have to look at the outside ring. But I guess it works. I didn't really have too much trouble with that. Otherwise, this pickup thing is really cool. It's such a clever device. You put it on, it snaps onto these pieces with the magnets, and then you just pick it up, you twist it any way you want to, and then you can just plop it loose again. And that works really well. I was very, very surprised at how well this works and how cool that looks. Both of these are white. I again wish that he had made one of them gray and one of them white for the gray player. I think that would have just looked better, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a device you use to pick up your pieces and to manipulate them, because the pieces on the board is, of course, where it's at. And then you have this marker as well, which is pretty small, but it has to be, because it has to fall into the tower, into that spot on the board where it will sit and indicate which four pieces you just used, so that the other player can't do the same, which is a very clever way of doing that. I like that. You just drop it in and it's there. It's very clever. So the whole thing, the material and the way it works is very well designed. The box is just a cardboard pizza type box that you just fold open and close again. So that's not much to look at. You put a sticker on it with basically what is supposed to be the cover. I did get a nice and signed copy, but you know, it is what it is. It's not the most fancy box, but fortunately the board and the pieces themselves are very cool. Normally I also review artwork and theme, which in this case is not present, so I'll skip that. The gameplay is really good. You really have to pay attention to what you do, of course, but also what your opponent's doing, because the pieces are constantly changing all over the board. Things are twisting around, pieces are moving, pieces are getting upgraded when you create a line, either in the opponent zone horizontally or in the entire zone vertically. And then you flip one of your pieces over and you get an up node, which is a stronger node, which can do more things. And you just need to have 2 conditions to win, and that's really clever because you're looking for ways to do that while your opponent is doing the same, and you might get the surrounding the opponent's main node first, and then it's weaker, so you can start turning it, and then you will focus on making a path, but of course your opponent will notice that, so he's gonna be in your way, while they are also trying, of course, to get those 2 winning conditions. So there's a lot going on, and you really have to pay attention, like in many abstract strategies, of course. But I just think this is a really fun and unique way. It's also very tactile, and it has a bit of an ASMR feel to it, if you know what I mean, just because of the click, putting it down, and then it's loose. And all of that has such a satisfying sound, which is just a lot of fun. It looks good, it plays well, it's interesting, it's very interesting. I've never seen a game that does this before, where you're moving both your and the opponent's pieces. I'm sure there's games that do such a thing, that where you're manipulating the opponent's pieces as well. But yeah, this is just a really unique way of doing it. It really does catch the eye, and it's pretty fun. It's relatively fast, and of course you can make the board smaller to have an even faster game. So it can take up to 45 minutes if you're playing the full board and you're, you know, trying to get a lot of paths, but you get blocked constantly. So there's a bit of a back and forth there. But yes, it's definitely a game I would recommend trying out, because I love abstract strategies and I've played a lot of them, and this one is definitely a unique one that is worth playing. Replayability is good, of course, since a game is usually pretty fast. You can replay it, you can play best out of 3 just as many times as you want, and because it's so interesting, you'll likely want to play it several times in a row, because it's just a lot of fun. Finally, it's an abstract strategy, so it's language independent, which is great, of course, so anyone can play it. In the end, fun game, interesting, cleverly designed, and he published it all by himself, so definitely giving it a big thumbs up. It is self-published, so you might have a hard time finding it depending on where you live. He was at Spiel last year. I believe the designer is from Germany. So if you're going to Spiel or perhaps other conventions in Germany, you might find this. Definitely keep an eye open for this. That's that. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up as well. And please also check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below or the icon at the end of this video. It's very much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.